They expect you to stay quiet, to swallow hidden fees, put up with faulty products, and accept poor service as just the way it is. But you can demand better. Stand up, speak up, because with Which on your side, you can say no to bad business, buy with confidence, and get the service you deserve. Which, the power in you. Find out more at which.co.uk.
Hi there, it's Rob here, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this series of our Healthy Living podcast. It's been the third series of our Healthy Living podcast that we've done here at Which, and we've been getting some brilliant feedback, so thank you to everyone who has listened over the last few weeks. Of course, in that time, we've looked at weight loss supplements and jabs, creatine and protein powder, and we've also busted some of the biggest myths around diet and nutrition. Well, in this week's final episode of this current series, we've got something really special for you. On Thursday, the 22nd of January, we recorded a live episode in front of a live virtual audience where we asked the question, can we get healthier as we age? It was a brilliant discussion with an expert panel, and we really hope you enjoy. Don't forget as well, you can check out loads more brilliant health advice on which.co.uk, or you can sign up to our fortnightly health newsletter by clicking on the link in the description for this episode. For now though, I'll hand you over to my colleague and the host of this special live podcast, Lisa Webb.
Hello and welcome to this first ever live podcast from us here at Which. This is the last episode of this current series of our Healthy Living podcast, and today's focus is all about whether or not we can get healthier as we age. I'm Lisa from Which, and joining us, we have got from Which our public health nutritionist, Shefalee Loth.
Hi.
We've got specialist dietitian and director of CityDietitians, Sophie Medlin.
Hi.
Presenter, podcaster, and Sunday Times best-selling author, Kate Lawler.
Hello.
And we've also got family GP specialising in women's health, author and medical broadcaster, Nighat Arif.
Hello, everyone.
I want to get us started here with Shefalee from Which. Now, people are going to know Which for certain things.
Yep.
They know us as the guys that bang on about washing machines and vacuum cleaners and those sorts of things.
I used you for my washing machine.
And we're very
You're
good at it,
great.
Kate. Thank you. But we're not talking about that stuff today. We're talking about health and well-being. Why are we talking about that?
Okay, so first of all, Which has been in the food, nutrition, health space for a long, long time. But we've definitely ramped up our work in this area in the last year or so. And the reason for that is in recent years, we've just seen so much health information being pushed online, on social channels, often by people who aren't qualified to give that information. And what it's led to is a huge misunderstanding, lots of consumer confusion, but also just a lot of nonsense out there that people are following. And so Which really wanted to get into this space, really to be a voice of reason, to cut through the noise, cut through the nonsense, and help consumers make the right choices for their health and well-being, essentially.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that there's a huge amount of confusion and actually misinformation. I think there can be some quite deliberate misinformation.
Yeah, and dangerous
as well.
misinformation sometimes.
And I think actually, Nighat, it'd be really interesting to hear from you, particularly if we're talking about, your patients. Are you seeing misinformation as a problem?
I'm seeing a misinformation in my patients, in my family, in my friends, there's nobody that I talk to that hasn't seen some bits of nuggets of misinformation, and they will run it past me. And that is really lovely. I'm honoured that they do that and have that much trust.
Do you charge them for it, then?
I don't charge them for it. I'm missing a trick there. But we are seeing a rise in this because people are turning to the internet, and so there's a term for it, cyberchondria.
No.
There is a term for it now.
Cyberchondria.
Yeah, so just like hypochondria, where you read something in a magazine, or it used to be sort of the Daily Mail or whatever, Good Housekeeping magazine, now suddenly people are going onto the internet, finding something, and that's making them really anxious, or believing that they have that condition because the internet told them that that's the case.
Yeah, it's not often people seeking it out. We are like, you're just scrolling and you'll see someone going, did you know?
Yes.
Peas give you cancer. And you're like, what? Like,
exactly,
it's so, everyone seems to be a professional and like everyone seems to be a doctor now. You mustn't do this, you mustn't do that. It's
And especially
the
if
Wild
the
West.
information's coming from someone that you really like and trust,
Yeah.
air quotation mark, that influencer that you've grown up with, or you might have liked them because they've shown a certain aspect of their life or given an insight to you, and they've said, actually, I went and this is the thing that I've learned. It makes you convinced that you have that as well. And people like validation.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
we
sure.
are mammals who love other people to go, there, well, I'm going to validate what you have, whether that's right or wrong. And unfortunately, that's what comes into my clinics.
So, Kate, you live your life online a bit here, and do you find yourself... do you think you've got cyberchondria? is it something
All
that
the
you can
time.
recognise?
My husband, he literally is constantly saying, why do you think you've got everything, every single symptom you ever get? I'll read something and I'll send it to him. Although he did send me something and go, this is you. He thinks I've got ADHD, so he's like, get yourself checked. But I was like, always sending me that. It's always, you've got ADHD, and ever thank you for telling me 13 stories in 2 minutes, which I'm very capable of. But other than that, I do go out and I go, I'll read something and then I'll just do a deep dive on it. And dangerously, on social media, I just see so much stuff and I believe it. I kind of don't anymore, to be fair. I'm actually quite good now. I think when it first started happening, I was very much like sending him stuff going, do you think this is me? Do you think this is our child? Do you know what I mean? So I think I've got better at now trusting that I do not go to social media for medical advice, and I will not believe everything I read on social media.
What's changed there? What made you think, actually, social media is not the place for me to get this information?
Just because when you think about it, if you're watching Dave in Wigan give you advice about like what's healthy, like no, you need a GP, I've got Nighat's number now. Just call Nighat.
She actually does.
Just call Nighat. Say, Nighat, come on, help me.
How many times a day is that
That is
happening?
actually the most sensible thing to do. You touch and base with your nutritional colleagues. You touch and base with people that is their bread and butter, and they've got years of knowledge in that specialism. And that's the missing jigsaw. So I'm not trying to say to people don't go on the internet, because it is sometimes if you're very lonely and you're living with that chronic condition, or the pieces of the jigsaw aren't falling into place, it totally makes sense to go onto the internet and get that validation and go, actually, I'm not going crazy, but just run it past someone who is a professional.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed about being on social media is, basically as soon as I clicked over the age of 40, the algorithms knew it. They just knew it. And I started immediately being peddled every supplement I can think of. And some of them I'd never heard of. Some of them are things that I was thinking, hang on, why do I want to take that? So, Sophie, we've got you here who, you have got loads of experience in the field of supplements and diet. Are you seeing vast amounts of misinformation around supplements particularly? And is it targeting women more than anyone else, or is it for everyone?
Listen, supplements have always been around. They've been around for a long, long time. But I think when I started my career 20 years ago, supplements were still sort of, my GP's told me I need to take iron, or, I might need to take folic acid when I'm getting pregnant. But it wasn't anywhere near what the supplement industry is now. It's been growing massively and growing exponentially since the pandemic, actually. People became very interested in preventative healthcare, and some of that is positive, and some of it means, like Kate perhaps, got a cupboard full of supplements that you're not taking. And I think it's it's a real minefield. And, some supplements are really beneficial and very evidence-based, and some are absolute nonsense. And as I have had 20 years experience in the field. I formulate supplements, I work with the supplement industry, I work with Which on reviewing supplements. Still sometimes my patients come to me and say, I'm taking this, do you think I should be taking this? And it's something I've never heard of. And that to me shouts, actually, there's so much out there and it is a real minefield, and people are vulnerable to these messages that come out. I do think because there's been this huge wave of interest and companies getting very involved in the menopause space, that's where women are being so heavily targeted at the moment, because often young men who are entrepreneurs have gone, there's really good money to be made in the menopause space, rather than it being someone who's genuinely engaged and has experience in that space and is creating products that are really needed.
What
Everyone's
are the
getting
supplements? I'm dying to ask.
I want to know
listen.
which ones just outright just don't take it.
What's a fad?
So there's so many. I think that where we're at the moment with medicinal mushrooms, there's just not enough research to say for sure whether we should be taking them or not.
Is that the same thing as I keep being pushed this, adaptogens?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
They are
I keep
a
being told I
form of
need to
adaptogen.
take lion's mane and cordyceps. And in my head, aren't cordyceps that thing from The Last of Us that turns us into zombies?
That we should be terrified of. Yeah, these are exactly the sorts of things we're talking about. And adaptogens, mushroom products are part of the adaptogen story. They are, at the moment, there's just not enough evidence to say we should definitely be taking them. But the way they're marketed is really clever. And, you know, when we look at often a lot of these mushroom products, actually the benefit you're getting, or the reason you feel better, is because they often also contain something like caffeine or another sort of stimulant that gives you that pick-me-up. And you think, oh, great, I don't feel like as buzzy as I did with coffee, but you're still getting a whack of caffeine. And it's a really messy space and really poorly regulated. And that's why there's so much nonsense out there.
We had a story, actually, Which had a story out today that's been picked up quite a lot about misinformation and mis-selling of products, and specifically in the weight loss sphere, talking about loads of really mainstream retailers who've been advertising weight loss supplements. And there are rules around what you can and can't say about these products, what they can and can't do. But often they're being touted as things like fat burners or something that can assist you from losing weight from your belly.
And GLP alternatives as well.
Exactly.
GLP supplement.
And is that something that is concerning for you, that this is happening so much?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we had a huge wave of weight loss supplements in the early phases of supplements becoming popular, like early 2000s, mid 2000s, for example. And then now, because of the GLP-1, so the weight loss jabs and medications, now people are looking for a cheaper alternative to that. And supplement companies have cottoned onto that and gone, oh, hang on, I can ride on this wave. People are searching for weight loss solutions. I can sell them this fibre powder that might keep them a bit fuller for longer, but it's certainly not going to do the same thing as a prescription medication. Not that people should necessarily be taking them if they don't need them, but ultimately it's a space. And wherever there is a space or even a vulnerability, supplement companies, unethical supplement companies, will jump on that and go, we can solve all your problems and cure everything. And as you say, many of the claims that are out there are illegal. I could spend my whole life reporting people on social media and elsewhere where I see supplements being advertised to the ASA, Advertising Standards Authority, but it would be a waste of my time because it's a never-ending tidal wave of nonsense.
Supplements is something that our audience is very keen to talk about. We've had lots of questions already in about supplements. One of the key things that seems to be coming through here, people asking, are supplements needed as we age? But also, can we just do it through diet? Is there something that we can do here that isn't about taking extra stuff? And so I'd be quite keen to hear from, well, all of you actually about this point, because is diet alone enough? Nighat, have you had to advise people on this much?
Personally, and looking at what my patient cohort group is, I would say diet is enough if you're making the right choices and you're not taking out certain food groups at certain points in your life. And also, it depends where you are. So, for example, if I do women's health, so I mostly see female patients in my practice, and if I'm looking at them, it depends where they are on their biological journey. So if I'm seeing a young girl who's 12 or 13, has just started her periods and they're heavy, the last thing I want her to do is cut out iron. So I would suggest that as she's menstruating, then to take iron supplementation if she feels tired or weak. I mean, we need to investigate that further, why she's losing so much iron. But actually, in Nature magazine, Professor Leslie Regan wrote a really great article where they looked at the data of what a normal period is. And we realized that actually, even on a normal period, menstruating women are losing 1 milligram of iron anyway out of that. And so we need to be thinking of replacing that through diet first. But if that's not appropriate, then topping up on an iron supplementation is reasonable. Then we get to pregnancy. Then I would say definitely folic acid and vitamin D, so important for spina bifida, neural tube diseases. And then if we're looking at perimenopause, again, we know that magnesium is so important for sleep, and that's when supplementation can be great if you're not thinking down the route of, say, hormone replacement therapy. So they definitely have a role to play, and like Sophie was saying, it depends on looking at what the data really does back, and that's where I step in as a GP and recommend it. There are some times where things like ashwagandha can be quite well received for hot flushes and night sweats. And also black cohosh can work quite well for some of my patients, but I've got to be really careful with the liver toxicity. And
what is that?
So it's a medication that can really help with hot flushes and fatigue as well, and irritability, and can be quite good for sleep. So it's a great supplementation. It's been around since, it's Chinese medicine, isn't it?
Ancient, yeah.
So it's been around for over 1,000 years, and we've just got to be really careful that it doesn't interact with the liver. Same as St. John's wort, it's been around for a very, very long time, used in the right quantities, making sure that there are no other medications that are interacting with it. Can be great as a something that can lift your mood or even assist with sleep. So in the perimenopausal phase, that works really well for a lot of my patients, and it gives them the ability to make sensible choices, to be able to exercise, to be able to have that meaningful connectivity with someone, because they're not hampered down by the symptoms of that biological transition that they're going through.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, the fact that you can supplement different areas in order to really boost yourself. Because I know, Kate, you've been doing veganuary.
I have.
So no animal-based proteins or anything this month?
No, but I've not eaten meat for about 8 or 9 years now, and I totally forgot that when I gave up meat that I would be very low in iron because I wasn't substituting it with enough iron-rich foods. So I became quite anemic, and I was also I always used to have quite heavy periods when I gave up meat, and not when I gave up meat, but at that time.
Yeah.
So I should have replaced with iron supplements, and eventually I did, felt much better. Then my friend said, we should also replace B12, gave me these supplements of B12, but I was being given a mega dose and I started getting really bad side effects and I was overdosing on B12, so I stopped taking those. And then perimenopause hit, my sleep went out the window, started taking magnesium, it made me poo 4 times a day. Not for me.
Wrong type of magnesium.
I'm assuming.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I was like, and immediately my mind goes, changing my bowel habits, something's wrong. And my husband was like, you just started taking magnesium. I was like, 4 times a day. I mean, I'm regular, but I didn't want to be that regular. So I stopped taking the magnesium. I take a sleep supplement at night now, which is just like a natural one, which is lovely. And it sends me into a nice sleep. No 4 poops a day, still quite regular. And now,
As long as you're still having some.
After all the supplements, I have to say the algorithm since I turned 40, as well as, I mean, lately it's just dogs and babies, dogs and cats, everything dogs. It's pushing me that, but it's also pushing the supplements. So yeah, the sleep supplement I take now is great, but I also now just take one supplement because, like I said, the algorithm pushes all, like creatine. The algorithm was pushing me collagen. It was pushing me magnesium for sleep, and I was just, my cupboards were full, and I wasn't taking any of them regularly. And now I think I'm in a much healthier place because I take one multivitamin, one that Sophie helped create, thank goodness. When I told her that I was taking the Heights Vital, she was like, oh, thank goodness. Because again, I read loads of stuff about multivitamins, if they're full of filler and binders, they're really bad for you. I wanted one that was plant-based as well, so that omega-3 is made of algae, which is great. And so I take my multivitamin, it's got iron, B12, zinc, iodine, biotin, vitamin D, it's got all of that. And then I was, when I was on my periods, taking iron as well, but my HRT I've upped, and since I've upped my estrogen, my periods have completely stopped. Or I've come out and I'm now in menopause, I don't know. But I've stopped having periods now, so I don't take iron.
But in terms of some of the stuff that you were being sort of peddled initially, and you're going, oh, I need to try this, I've got to take collagen. One of the things that I see all the time is videos of people sticking scoopfuls of collagen powders into their morning coffee. And I sort of think, in my mind, collagen's the thing that you're meant to slap on your face. And am I meant to be eating my skincare? Is that where we're at? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think so. Collagen's a really interesting one. If you'd have asked me this question maybe even 18 months ago, we would have said there's no research to support it, that we don't really think it's making any difference. And actually in the last 18 months there has been some really interesting research understanding much more about how collagen supplements can be used, not just for ankle injuries, sprained ligaments, those sorts of things. But
Does it
also
work
now,
for that?
Yeah, there is evidence for that. Yeah, for injury recovery quicker, but also now for skincare and how your skin looks and appears and how people feel their skin looks. Listen, you can take collagen capsules, you can take it however you want to, you don't have to take it at all. Equally, you could make soups with bones in them, not for you, my love, but you could make soups with bones in them and then you get loads of collagen and you could do it like we used to traditionally, if you know what I mean. So there's ways around it and you don't have to take it, but there is some benefits to it and we do know that now.
What about plant-based collagen?
No benefits.
No benefits.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Is it a thing? Is plant-based can you make collagen from plants?
Well, you can't technically, but they take the components of collagen and then make them up, but it's not the same at all. It's not going to work in the same way in your body.
Can we talk about creatine? Because it's everywhere at the minute. You need
It
creatine. My friend went and started taking it and then went to a GP and he was like, your liver's working overtime to try and get rid of all this creatine that you don't need, stop taking it.
Yeah. So actually, Sophie and I have recently reviewed creatine supplements for online, and because we've reviewed them, we're not saying you've got to take them. Basically, we've said we know people are taking these, so actually, let's look at them. Let's look at 20 or 30 that are on the market and see which are the best. Now, the evidence for creatine is actually quite strong. It's one of the most widely researched supplements, and the evidence that exists for it is mainly around exercise. So there are 2 authorised health claims for creatine. One is about intensity of exercise in the gym, gym. And the second one is about muscle improvement for over 55s, basically. And so when you take it, when you're working out at the gym, it can help your performance and it can help muscle regeneration. There is newer evidence that's looking at whether it can help cognitive health and brain fog and things like that, but actually it's still very early days for that, and so nothing is conclusive.
Yet.
But
fingers
Watch
crossed.
this
Yeah,
space.
well,
yeah,
if it
watch
is,
this
then that
space.
would
There's another
be
one
great.
to add to the cupboard.
Yeah.
But I should just add, if you're looking at creatine for things like brain fog, the thing is it works at its best if you're exercising. So actually the best thing for things like brain fog or muscle recovery is actually to do effective exercise.
Yes, that's it. And also, you can't just take creatine and expect to get muscles.
Yeah,
You've got to be working out.
And that's the problem we have. People are taking, so I see this in my clinics.
Yeah.
People are like, I'm taking all this creatine, but they're actually not physically using it anywhere because they're not exercising.
Yeah.
So it's just going to get, we call it like a dump in the liver or dump in the kidneys. And so too much of something will also cause an issue in regards to kidney stones is the classical one that we see.
I'm a massive advocate for exercise. I've always exercised my entire life and I've never felt better than when I exercise. When I hit perimenopause, my desire to exercise just dropped to the floor and I'm gutted because I just feel like I don't have it in me anymore. And I wish I did have the get up and go. And I know now is the time I need to exercise more than ever. I need to do weights. I need to make sure I'm protecting my bones. And you were just saying about creatine, like about how the best thing you can do is exercise. Like as we age, what is the best form of exercise we can do for anyone watching that doesn't know?
I would say for women especially is weight-bearing exercise. So, my algorithm is full of people saying lift weights, lift weights, lift weights. And actually, as we age, our muscle mass does decline really quite rapidly. So as women and as men, we do need to do that weight-bearing exercise to maintain our muscle mass.
Yeah, and I would say anything that's got resistance. So even if you're going to use your body, so yoga, tai chi, if you're going to walk and go swimming, so water, anything that's going to go resistance against your body is going to be the best thing. And also that's shown to be great for muscle, but inconclusively bone as well, because we start losing muscle mass around the age of 30 and bone by the age of about 36. Wow. So as young as that, so young. And we think, oh no, we don't have to worry about this until we're in our 60s. No.
So does resistance training actually, does it grow bone or does it just stop bone disappearing?
No. It helps restore muscle. So anything that's going to help restore the collagen and the fibre in the muscle and make that get stronger. Because remember, we've got the most amount of tensility within our muscles. And if that is able to do really well, it then supports the bone. Because your immune system sits around the ends of your bones and is constantly regenerating and looking after. So you've got these wonderful things called like osteoblasts and osteoclasts, and they take away old bone and lay down new bone. It's like literally every 3 months you get new tarmac on your bones, every single bone in your body. And this process, if you keep your muscles going, hence why the myth is, oh, well, if I exercise, I hurt. No, you need to exercise so that you stop hurting in the future. And the reason is because as the muscles are stronger, it facilitates the immune system to do their job better. And so that swapping over of new and old bone, you don't even notice it until that process gets even slower as we age. And that's when we're like, ooh, and we all make that noise as we get older.
I feel like I'm doing that a lot. We've had a question from someone who submitted a question about this saying, they've asked specifically about CrossFit, but I guess this can apply to anything. They said, can CrossFit be an answer for becoming and remaining strong in your 70s? I love the idea of someone doing CrossFit in their 70s.
Yeah.
But they've also said, when should you call it a day regarding physical activities? And I really want the answer here to be never, but tell me, when should you call it a day regarding physical activities?
2 reasons why. One is if you physically are worsened with your pain. So pain would be another thing as well. And secondly, if it's too much pressure for your cardiovascular system. So we say if it pushes your blood pressure up, then please, that would be another reason to go and check it out with your doctor what you can do. And that's when you step down. So you're not doing that level of intensity. And I'm not talking that I'm expecting someone to say intensity is a marathon. It could be that lifting, say, 5 kilos, actually that's not a good weight for you. Come down to 2.5.
Yeah, so the other thing that they've added onto this question here, they were saying about what you've said, they're thinking about the impact of exercise on an older body, such that there's no time where somewhere doesn't hurt. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, stuff hurts. But like you've said, You kind
Mate,
of need to
everything
move.
hurts.
Everything always
I can tell
hurts.
you that everything hurts. And that's the thing, because also just the process of inflammation and exercising that inflammation and going away, because we are such a multi-complex body, then we are going to ache somewhere else. But do what you can with that ache. If it means rubbing on some deep heat gel to bring that inflammation down topically, so that you can continue to exercise, that's important. And that's the variety in exercise is really important. Don't just stick with one and that's the only one that you do. You've got to be able to do different sorts of exercises. So I'm a 41-year-old perimenopausal woman. I started swimming when I was about 40, having had a fear of water all my life. But I can't just swim. I also started doing weightlifting. I've also started doing a bit of yoga. I've started learning Tai Chi. And this isn't like a brag. I'm not bragging. No, I'm not bragging.
Where do you find the time?
Don't mess with her. Tai Chi expert over here.
No, but I mean, I can't do it well at all. But the aspect is, I do all of them very badly.
But you do it.
But I do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like even if you do something badly and you're not like an Olympian swimmer, who cares? As long as you're in the water.
I mean, there are very few of us who are Olympian swimmers, let's be honest. One of the other questions we've had here about things like building muscle, they say they're over 50 and keep hearing that they need more protein. But is this only for building muscle? Because they're saying it's so confusing. I just don't even know what I need more
It's
of.
having a moment.
What do I need less of?
Protein and fibre.
Yes.
Having a moment.
Hopefully fiber's taking over from protein.
Yeah.
But is this a moment that we can ignore, or actually do we need to be paying attention?
Yeah, I think one of the tricky things, especially with this generation now who are going through perimenopause and getting older, is that a lot of the messages that were pushed were about women shouldn't be eating too much protein and should be careful with healthy fats and things like this. So there is a generation of women who are just not eating a lot of protein, never have eaten a lot of protein. And so when a lot of the women that I speak to will say, well, I'll have soup for lunch and then I have, maybe a bit of chicken and a stir fry for my evening meal, for example. And actually we need to be trying to get at least 2 decent doses of protein in a day in order to make sure that we are meeting all of our protein
What are we
requirements.
calling a decent dose?
Well, like
portion?
a full chicken breast,
Okay.
or a couple of eggs at breakfast or lunch, that sort of thing is a decent portion of protein. And the problem that we have is that people aren't consuming enough, and then muscle mass starts to deteriorate in our 40s, and then we end up later in life with something called sarcopenia, significant muscle loss. And so really we do need to be thinking about protein in our midlife. Does that mean, in order to have a healthy later life, does that mean that we all need to be taking protein supplements? Definitely not. We don't need protein powders. Adding these things that are what I would call an ultra-processed food into our diets is not necessarily the right way to go. If you're someone who is doing loads of bodybuilding and you're maybe quite heavy, then you might need loads of protein every day, and a protein powder might be convenient for you. But ultimately, everybody can get enough protein just from diet alone, and you're better off focusing on having a nice portion of healthy protein at each meal 3 times a day, and maybe a high protein snack, and you'll get plenty of protein every day.
And then we'll all be ready to do CrossFit in our second.
Of course.
Perfect. One of the other things that people have talked about a lot here is that, the exercise, the proteins and stuff, but rest and recovery is obviously really key for when it comes to exercise. But I think sleep is something we're seeing a lot of people asking us questions about. Kate, you mentioned magnesium. I think you'd taken a magnesium supplement that
My
reacted on the
husband takes
poos.
magnesium every night. He swears by it. He says it helps him stay in a deep sleep. I took it, then had the bowel issue, so I just stopped. But I don't get enough sleep. And and my sister won't mind if I say this, but she's older than me. She looks better than me, but she is an absolute, she goes out every weekend. She drinks alcohol Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and she looks amazing, but she sleeps from like 8 p.m. till 7 a.m.
the dream.
Whereas I look after my body much more than she does. She won't mind me saying this, hi Kelly if you're watching, but I don't sleep as much. I sleep about 6 to 7 hours a night, and I feel exhausted. And I always say to my husband, we've got to go to bed earlier. We've got to go to bed earlier. But then something comes on, like a really good box set.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
And I just watch one more episode, and then, or I'm working late, and then we don't go to bed till like midnight.
Yeah,
And it's just not enough. But like I'm starting to think, looking at my sister, maybe sleep is the key.
So one of the things I hear anecdotally is that women need more sleep than men. Is that true, or is that just more internet misinformation?
Just say yes.
Can I get away with telling my other half that I need 2 more hours sleep and that he needs to deal with the dogs?
There is science behind why women need more sleep, but then our sleep comes out of kilter purely because of our cycles. So our periods underpin our sleep cycle quite a lot, and that's because if you think about it, we have 4 stages to our cycle. The key bit is the luteal phase, so that's a week to 10 days before you have a bleed. in that week to 10 days before you bleed, what classically happens is your estrogen decreases, your progesterone, and a little bit of your testosterone, hence why you want to throttle your other half. If he touches you, like, I'm going to punch you in the face, you know. And then come follicular phase, you're like, oh, I'm horny as anything. And the luteal phase is actually where that aspect of the estrogen decreasing really knocks off your melatonin. So that's why you feel a bit irritable. So women, we do classically say, actually it's advisable that when you get sleep, that you get good sleep. Conversely, after having a baby, postnatally, women find it really difficult to sleep. And I actually think that's a evolutionary thing, because you know, as you have a baby, you need to feed them and look after them, because their pure survival and their way to survive is if the adults are awake. So not only are they crying, but actually there is that real sensitivity. So I remember, you know, I was like a cat. Like, if anything moved, I'm up, I'm ready. You know, if I thinking there was anything that was happening. And the same conversely happens as we get to perimenopause. We know that the reduction of estrogen, and interestingly, testosterone has come into the conversation over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've realized testosterone isn't something you need for a bit of sexy time and your libido. Testosterone is actually really important for your cognitive function and your sleep function as well, because we've just realized in February 2025 actually, that the female brain makes testosterone, which we never understood before. So this is early research. And
so we
looking at
literally learned this last year.
Yeah, we did, because we've never really looked at the female
hormone. Does this not indicate
hormone.
that we just have not been looking
exactly.
in the right direction?
It's horrific. Then you look at the sort of the gender bias when it comes to medical research. But the fact that women do need more sleep is vital, because we need to replenish a lot more. So if you see your other half lying on the sofa and she's having a snooze in the middle of the day, it's not because she's lazy. She's probably in her luteal phase, and that's her recovery.
God, I hope my husband's watching this. I really do.
Shefalee, we've tested magnesiums, haven't we? And do we actually have any views here about whether or not it does anything?
Yeah, so we've reviewed magnesium supplements, and you were taking the wrong type, Kate. That's what I can say, because magnesium supplements have lots of different types. Well, there's lots of different forms of magnesium in there. And when Sophie and I review supplements, we look at the dose. Is it too high? Is it too low? Is it right? We also look at the bioavailability of the nutrients.
What does that mean?
It basically means...
that word pops up a lot, and I hear bioavailability and I hear microbiome, and I'm coming back to that one.
Those are different things. Yeah. But the bioavailability is how easily absorbable the form of that nutrient is. So with magnesium, some forms are more absorbable than others. We also look at what additives and fillers are in these supplements. So are they packed full of things that really shouldn't be there? And then when
why would they be? Is it just making something cheaper?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So we just fill it full of sawdust.
Some fillers are there for a reason, but some aren't, and they don't need to be. Such as sugar in a supplement, you know, it's not necessary. And then when we got our top scorers, we send those off to a lab to be independently tested, so that we know they contain what they say they do, before we then say, right, well, out of magnesium supplements, these are the ones that we think are best buys, or great value, so we can pinpoint where people should go should they want to take one.
Do you take magnesium, either of you?
Do you know what? I have been twitching in my sleep. It doesn't bother me, but it bothers my husband. So I've been taking it recently, but I'm very lucky to be an absolute champion sleeper, so I don't take it normally.
So I started because my sleep's been really affected as I've got older, and since having a baby, I was really interested to hear what you were saying. But it gave me really vivid dreams. We talked about this, so I had to stop taking it because my dreams were just off the scale.
My husband gets really vivid dreams. I don't think he's put two and two together. But there's loads of different types of magnesium as well. It's like all the different types. Which are the ones that are
The one
good?
that doesn't cause symptoms is magnesium bisglycinate.
Bisglycinate.
Yeah, so that's the best one. And sometimes people are particularly sensitive, and you might want to, for example, empty the capsule and just take half rather than a full dose, and see how that suits you first of all.
Is it something you ought to sort of try in small doses and then work up to, or just
most people will be fine, but some people
best?
will be sensitive, especially if you've got sensitive digestion anyway. So it's worth kind of thinking about that half a capsule thing to start with and seeing how that goes.
I think I get quite confused by magnesium because Shefalee and I were talking about this earlier. In my head, magnesium's that thing. Do you remember when you were a kid
science,
at school in chemistry, you'd set fire to it and it would like burn really brightly? Do we actually want to eat that? Is that
Yes, we need it.
Yeah,
We do,
we want to put that in.
But iron is actual iron.
I'm going to be out there licking rocks any second. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about sleep, and we've had quite a few questions, people saying that they need advice on sleeping, saying I'm awake all night at least once a week due to menopause, I think. Any tips on that and how we can try and get some better sleep?
So there's great guidance from the British Menopause Society about sleep and actually what you can do about it. We've realised is because of this something really interesting that happens. There's a gut-brain reaction that happens with the brain, and these incredible receptors called GABA receptors. So they sit in our gut and they absorb a lot of the thing, particularly hormones like serotonin. Now, serotonin, depending on what paper you read, between 90 to 95% of our serotonin is actually made in our gut and then reconstituted back into the brain. Exercise and muscles, etc. That's why you feel so good, because your serotonin goes up, your happy hormone, and your dopamine, that great hormone that makes you feel alert and happy, as well as oxytocin. Estrogen, if you think of it, estrogen is just like, I've likened it now over the years of like working with estrogen. It's this lovely lubricating hormone. It lubricates all your blood vessels. It's a component of your immune system. It allows your gut to do what it needs to do. And we've got the greatest amount of microbiome. So there's amazing research that's happening about the gut microbiome and estrogen as well. So in perimenopause, as estrogen is decreasing, you're not able to absorb that lovely serotonin. So at night time, as your brain is getting ready, that circadian rhythm is kicking in to go, right, she needs to go to sleep now. And the lowering of the estrogen means those GABA receptors can't open up or close at the right time to allow you to have enough melatonin. So patients will go, I actually fall asleep fine, Dr. Nighat. Then I'm awake at 2 o'clock in the morning and I don't know why I'm awake, or I'm awake at 5 o'clock in the morning, or it's just become a thing, I'm an early riser. It is literally because of the absorption of the neuroreceptors in your brain. So this is where HRT is first line. So the British Menopause Society have said, do think about hormone replacement therapy. So try and bring back your estrogen as much as you can. So don't wait for your sleep to get so horrific that then you think about HRT. So estrogen, such as a patch, gel or spray, and this is where micronized progesterone can work really well. So micronized progesterone, such as Utrogestan or Geprotix, or generic progesterone, which is micronized, is body identical, and it actively works on the small bowel, so on those lovely GABA receptors, and it allows that progesterone to help boost your melatonin and your serotonin in your brain. So we've started looking at patients just to give them progesterone on its own, just to see if it will help with their sleep, because they might not need estrogen. And again, testosterone is the other little player. So first line is HRT for menopausal sleep, not antidepressants.
Can I echo that? I think this is such an amazing, valid response, because one of my first symptoms of perimenopause was heart palpitations, and I was like, in the evenings I would get heart palpitations and I couldn't sleep and I'd be wide awake. The moment I went on it, I went to a cardiologist, I went to my GP, I went and had all these tests done thinking I was having a heart attack. I was totally fine. As soon as I started HRT, I slept. My sleep is now like fine, unless I've had a second coffee at 1 o'clock because I forgot the time, or unless I'm really stressed because I might have had a disagreement with my husband and I'm fuming and I'm sat there like that, I can't sleep. The HRT changed my sleeping habits for the better. The moment I went and got, is it micronized progesterone via the coil though? Is that
so? That you can get it in the coil as well.
Because I've got that.
You got that in micronized, but Utrogestan.
But then I take HRT. I started with the patch. I'm now on the gel. But the moment I started HRT, my heart palpitations stopped and my sleep deprivation went, and I was able to sleep like normally. My problem is that I just don't go to bed.
I know, and classically, this is what really upsets me, because I mean, it's been 2 decades since I've been a doctor, more than a decade since I've been a GP with a women's health specialism, and we've just been giving women antidepressants.
I was
Still,
giving them.
Still now, I get patients who will go, oh, but the doctor just wants to give me but antidepressants. If you look at how the mechanism of our hormones interplay with our brain, it doesn't make sense biologically as well, the way that the female body works. But if you think about it, the reason antidepressants is the go-to is because all the research on sleep has been done on men.
And heart palpitations as well. My GP said, you're getting heart palpitations, you're anxious, you need anti-anxiety meds. So that's what I was put on. 3 months later, I was like, nothing is helping. I'm still getting heart palpitations. So I went to see a cardiologist. Eventually, HRT sorted it. So please try it. Don't be scared.
You've convinced me.
And I don't want people... Sorry to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I don't want people to think that antidepressants are bad. Please don't, because I do prescribe them. They're great for the right patients. And some of my patients, I start HRT on, and then antidepressants work really well. And if you've got patients who've got breast cancer or for other reasons that they can't have systemic HRT, so that's HRT that's going to go throughout your whole body, there are alternatives such as antidepressants, but also medications like Veoza has come in. So there's a whole wealth of information that we've got.
And what's Veoza? What does that do?
Veoza is phenylenediton. So they work, now you're testing me, on the
We're going to make you do this.
neurokines in the brain. So they work on the hypothalamus in order to calm down the hot flushes and so that you sleep better. Because the biggest reason of our sleep disturbance is the night sweats and the hot flushes. But so for some, that might not be the case. So the hypothalamus regulates your body temperature at night.
I'm finding myself being influenced while I sit here talking to you, because I'm sitting there going, I wake up every night at 3:45 and can't go back to sleep for 2 hours. Is this me? Are you describing me right now?
The amazing thing is, and sorry, I'm taking over, but the key thing is that we always talk about exercise and diet as being one of the things to prevent dementia in the future. Sleep is the third key thing. So the Lancet produced 11 key bits of ways to ward off dementia, from childhood and early teens and pollution and hearing, etc. If you have a difficulty hearing issue, then your risk of dementia increases by five times. But actually, lack of sleep. And I think that if you look at the statistics, women are 5 times greater of having dementia than men. And I don't think that's just an accidental statistic.
I didn't know that.
And so it has to be, because from the moment that we start our periods, from the age of 12, our sleep comes out of kilter and we put up with it.
Wow. That's a wild statistic. 5 times.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So you mentioned there about talking about food and exercise for dementia and sleep being a thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about food again. We're going backwards again. I'm sort of jumping around a bit. Maybe that's perimenopause. But so one of the things that people have been asking us about here is about, one is losing weight, finding it harder to lose weight as they get older. But the other one is about whether or not eating things, whether you need to change what you eat as you get older, whether or not your requirements are changing. And one question here, someone who's actually listening live at the moment says, is there anything wrong with eating the same meals every day based on the correct balance of micro and macronutrients? Is there any evidence to suggest that that's not good for you? So I'm going to throw across to you two in the corner, because you're our dietitian nutritionist.
Yeah. So I would say if your meals are balanced, then there might not be anything wrong, for example. But if you think about our advice on eating fruit and veg, it's about eating a rainbow. And so if you're only ever eating the same vegetables, so for example, if you only ever eat carrots and broccoli, then where are you getting your you've got no red vegetables in there and no yellow and no purple. So it's just about variety, really. It's, yes, your bases can be the same, but if you can, try and vary those plants in your diet. So, use different herbs, use different spices, use different vegetables, different fruits.
Yeah, with our gut microbiome, we need a variety of different plants. And when we talk about plants, we're not just talking about fruits and vegetables, although they are the core of it. We're also talking about different whole grains, oats, quinoa, all the different legumes, beans, pulses, herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, all of these things that we need to have variety of. And I see, or especially in the past, I've seen lots of men, it used to be, now I think it's more women as well, eating like chicken and rice and broccoli, chicken, sweet potato and broccoli on repeat every day. It feels safe, it's in a box, they've got it weighed out, they know exactly how much they're having. Food also needs to be joy, but variety is really key. And if food becomes restrictive and weighed and measured and you're hyper-fixating on macros, something might not be quite in balance with your relationship with food, and that's really something to consider.
And does it change as we age? Do we need to actually change our diets? What I used to eat when I was 20, can I keep eating that now? Or
yeah, great question.
Is that going to change?
A couple of things to mention here. One is, so as we get older, if our muscle mass decreases, our metabolism decreases. So we burn less calories doing the same sorts of things. Speaking of sleep, when we're sleep deprived, there was amazing sleep deprivation studies that King's done showing that when you are sleep deprived, you eat on average 400 to 600 calories a day more than when you're not sleep deprived.
Why?
So
Why do we do that?
Because our brain, when we're stressed and when we are sleep deprived, when we eat more, our brain gives us more dopamine to say keep eating and keep eating more because we need more energy to stay awake. When we're stressed, we want energy to run or fight. So imagine through midlife, there's this particular point where our muscle mass decreases if we don't prevent it. It's very preventable. Muscle mass decreases and therefore our metabolism decreases. We're often sleep deprived, so our appetite increases. Often around this age we're also more stressed. Perhaps we're at the peak of our career, we've got kids, we've got other things going on in our lives that make us more stressed, maybe elderly parents too, and it all layers up. And at that point you end up with a stressed person who's extra hungry because they're stressed, a sleep deprived person who's extra hungry because they're sleep deprived, and also somebody who is perhaps just not eating their best because they're rushing around and struggling, and then their muscle mass is decreasing because they haven't got time to exercise, and all these things are happening all at the same time. And so weight loss becomes more difficult. When I'm working with patients on weight loss, it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you're sleeping, it's about movement, it's about self-care. If you're super stressed, it's really hard to lose weight. Cortisol makes us hold on to body weight for longer. And so we need to work on this really, really holistically. So if you did eat exactly the same as in your 20s, unfortunately, you probably still find your body composition would be different, especially post-menopause, than it was in your 20s. But ultimately, we need to be focusing in midlife about making sure we're eating plenty of that protein we talked about, really good variety to look after our gut microbes, and looking after your health really holistically as well.
One of the things that I've seen quite a lot of on social media, and again, everyone's algorithm is different, but I feel like I'm getting some weird stuff poked at me. Possibly because I go looking for it for which, and then it just affects everything. But intermittent fasting or fasting seems to be having a bit of a resurgence. Is there any evidence to suggest that it's any good for anyone? Does it work?
I'd be really interested to hear from your perspective, from a hormone perspective. But what we do know to be true from a weight management perspective is that for a lot of people, a 16-8 fasting pattern does support weight loss.
That's what I do.
And that's what works in research studies. There's no research beyond the 16-8 pattern. So anyone who's fasting for 20 hours, 24 hours, I see people doing week-long water fasts now. Some people are even being pushed not having fasting without even having water now. It's getting really crazy out there. So a 16-8 meal pattern has some evidence for supporting weight loss for some people some of the time. And some people are starving when they wake up in the morning and it doesn't work for them. And some of my patients will say, well, I don't eat with my family anymore because it's out of my fasting window, and I hate that, and that's not right either. We have to look at everything holistically. But ultimately for some people it works. All of the rest of the stuff around it, regenerating your cells and making you live forever and preventing cancer, is all rodent models, early work, nothing that's been conclusive at this stage.
That's really interesting, because that is the thing that I've been seeing a lot of, is this idea that if you fast for 36 hours, all of a sudden your cells just completely renew themselves and you've got a brand
You're
new
a whole
liver.
new person. You're like a baby.
So we're saying that's not true.
No. Not true.
Can we just quickly touch on the weight loss jabs
Yeah.
as well for people? I know they've been amazing for people who need them, but just for like the person who's sitting there a size 12 thinking, I want to be a size 6 for whatever reason, how can we encourage people to just try alternatives to that? And because I've seen people on it and they're just not eating food and they're not experiencing the joy, and they're sat there and they can't eat, and I'm just like, I feel sorry for you because you're not enjoying your food anymore. Like, you're not eating, and it's really sad.
And actually we're seeing as well a lot of like high street restaurant brands are monopolizing on this, because they're now introducing these GLP-1 friendly meals that you can go into Pret or Greggs or wherever, and they're now saying, well, this particular meal is friendly for you if you're on Mounjaro or Ozempic because it's smaller, it's high in protein. And it feels like it's just become a bit of a money spin.
Yeah, but it is a money spin, but also leeching on the most vulnerable. I'm really sorry, but essentially they are the normal portion size that should be for the average adult who is just walking around, but at a higher cost because they've got the GLP-1.
So should we have always just been served these sizes?
We'd always been served these sizes without the ultra-processed stuff and starches and bulkers that weren't necessary. I deal with GLP-1s in the NHS as an NHS GP. So GLP-1s are like a medication that's come around which is literally on steroids, and I can't believe it. It's like even taken me to at breakneck speed having to learn how it works. This is just out of this world, and that's because there's a monopoly over it, but also because they work. But we've got to be really clear, these aren't just weight loss, these are anti-obesity medication. So your size 12 patient or your size 10 should not be on them. These are anti-obesity medications that are used for those that are over the obesity category who have an underlying health condition. There is strict criteria for this. And I'm really sort of careful about that because, like I say, I do prescribe them in the NHS. I prescribe them for my diabetic patients. And it means that those that genuinely really need it aren't getting them because of supply. But secondly, we're having a great issue with harm about shrinking, can I say this, women more than anything.
Say it.
Women are shrinking themselves, and that is feeding into the patriarchy like no man's business. And it's really annoying me because it's seen as this height of beauty is going from a size 12 to a size 6, and that is literally where patriarchy wants us to be quiet and small. We're not doing that today.
I think we do have to finish it there because that is all we've got time for. We have got loads more advice on our website, which.co.uk/health. We've got a free fortnightly health newsletter that rounds up everything that our brilliant team has been up to. But all that we've got time for now is for me to just say thank you so much to this panel. You have been amazing, incredible.
It's free advice.
And it's just been brilliant. And I've been so invested in everything that you've been saying, and I'm going to go and take all of this away. But until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening to this podcast from Which, the UK's consumer champion. You can find plenty more advice about what we discussed today in the show notes. There you'll also find a link to become a Which member for 50% off the usual price, an offer exclusively available to you, our podcast listeners. Joining Which will not only give you access to our product reviews, our app, one-to-one personalised buying advice, and every issue of Which magazine across the year, but you'll also be helping us to make life simpler, fairer, and safer for everyone. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you're listening. That way, you'll be notified whenever we release a new episode of Which Money, Which Shorts, or any other podcast that we make for you. And if you want to get in touch with us, then follow us on social media at Which UK or drop us an email to podcasts@which.co.uk. See you next time.
They expect you to stay quiet, to swallow hidden fees, put up with faulty products, and accept poor service as just the way it is. But you can demand better. Stand up, speak up, because with Which on your side, you can say no to bad business, buy with confidence, and get the service you deserve. Which, the power in you. Find out more at which.co.uk.